Everybody, today we're going to do a video on repairing the damage on my dump truck. I tell everybody to put implements down. Like I got a daughter and son-in-law that are on my equipment a lot. And I'm the one that left my grader blade up. I left it up and in an angle. Busy that week, probably too busy. It's just shit that happens, put it bluntly. No one got hurt, so I really don't care. That's the way I look at life. As long as no one got hurt, I'm not too concerned about it. What happened is I backed out. I come home the night before, parked the tractor, didn't drop the grader blade. The grader blade was up plus in an angle. Actually, next afternoon, I went up to move my dump truck, and I got by it with the dump body, which is pretty much wider than the truck, so I'm thinking, oh, I'm all set, but I must have just relaxed the wheel a little bit, and that grader blade caught my aluminum fender. So grabbed the fender and kind of ripped it open, folded it forward, broke the headlight, and the tractor was against one of my farm fences. Like when I say close, the grader blade was probably 2 inches off from the wood. So the only way of getting the truck away from it was to move the truck back forward. And I tried getting in the tractor, messing with it to get it to drop, but it weren't happening. So what happened is as I pulled away, the blade did drop, then it got into my bumper, so it made the story even better and better as we went on. But again, no one got hurt, so I don't care. But that's what this video is going to be about, is repairing my truck. I just want to, today what we're going to do is I'm going to do, I took the fender off that day. We cleaned the truck up with a power washer. I want to buff the cab out because I bought a new fender from Ford. That was another thing. It's back ordered for 2 weeks, but it did come in. It came in about a week and a half. Bought a headlight. I decided now I was gonna fix the bumper that was on it, but I think I'm gonna put a chrome bumper on it, so I'm just gonna buy a new bumper. I do have commercial truck insurance. I think this here would just make my rates go crazy, so I'm just gonna deal with it. I'm basically gonna have probably $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 in parts, and just, you know, ruin a day of mine or 2 days of mine probably. But I'm gonna buff it out today, clean the cab up. So when I put I'm gonna paint the fender off the truck. This is doesn't show, but this is a black metallic. It's hard to see on a camera, but so I'm gonna paint the fender off the truck this afternoon. But I want to buff the truck out, back it out so it's ready. When the fender's ready, I can just pull it back in, bolt it together. I've already been without it now for 3 weeks. I've been using my dump trailers, which that was a blessing that I have those. I don't think I'll ever have 2 dump trucks. I don't want to pay the insurance and all that on them. It would have been nice on a week, but the trailers worked out good. I had to move a lot of dirt this week, and delivering deliveries and stuff with trailers isn't fun. But anyways, we'll get back on this. I want to show you the damage. The fender, pretty nasty. A lot of guys will question the aluminum fender, but I'm actually impressed with what it did, because a steel fender, I believe, would have dragged and got into my door. This just ripped, and everything stayed pretty square. When I pulled away from it, what happened is it cracked my headlight. So, and the headlight's probably 2.5 times the cost of that fender, is what's funny. But we're gonna get working on it today. Like I said, we're gonna buff it out, then back it out, and then I'm gonna set the new fender up on a rack and sand it up and get it primed. It does come primed, and I know with the aluminum fenders, they say try to do your best not to sand through it, because that's what that Ford sends them to you in primer, so that the paint sticks to them. That's my biggest thing with the aluminum that I would worry about, is getting paint to stick to it well. You know, but Ford doesn't seem to have a problem with it. The trucks have been aluminum for a while. I haven't really seen any big flaking issues. And if you look at that, how I dug into it, that paint didn't flake off, it scratched. So I think they've got the paint thing figured out before they even gave it to the customers. But that was my big thing when I read about Ford going all aluminum, that they'd have an issue with paint flaking. But I do think these are to get that fender off that day took me about 10 minutes. You have the 90s Fords. I've changed fenders on those when I fixed them up to use for a company truck or put new fenders, but I mean, it would take you hours to change your fender out. This one here, it came off in about 10 minutes. I agree, some of it like that. I didn't do this. This happened during the incident. That's just a felt that ripped, but overall, I'm pretty impressed with the way it took to hit. So, and how it's put together. Simple, and that's what it should be. So we'll get on it. And I just buffed out my old 70s Ford, so all my stuff's out. I think I am going to use the Meguiar's stuff on this, not the 3M, because the Meguiar's, the 3M stuff I got, I don't want to, I guess the best way to say it's dated. Some of this compounds and stuff I use are made for the acrylic enamel and straight urethanes. All this stuff that's clear coated, the clear coat's real thin, so you can't get crazy with it. I normally have these trucks cleaned up in the spring. I'd normally have that dump body painted already. This season, what happened here is we've been getting rain, and I do a lot of camp road work. Nothing froze up over the winter, so the roads were a mess. Then we started getting rain, they washed out, so I never had that downtime between plow season and starting the landscape season. Normally I bring both my company trucks in and I do a 3-step mirror glaze on them, get them looking good. The dump body normally would be painted in the fall before winter. This year I didn't get to do it because I was busy. But that body needs some attention, but that will be once I slow down. The next probably 6 to 8 weeks I'm pretty crazy schedule-wise, so I want to get this back together and get it on the road. So I may even have, I think my son-in-law does mechanical at his house. I think I might actually have him help me rip this apart and put it back together just to speed the process up. We've been getting, every job I'm on right now, the rain's messing me up, so I'm behind on that. I really can't take a full day on this, so I'm going to try to buff it out today, back it out, prep and paint the fender. I'll wet sand and buff the fender tomorrow, and I'll see if he can get over here and help me, get this put back together. But I just thought it'd be a cool video. Stuff that happens. I mean, it stinks, but it's just a reality. Stuff that happens. So I'm going to try a couple different products on it and see what works good. I'm going to try the fine cut number 2 Meguiar's product just to see. I know there's not a lot of clear on this truck. I can tell by looking at it. I actually have one of those tools too that you set on it and it will tell you the thickness, and there's very little clear on this. So I don't want to get crazy with a compound. I think that's all it's going to take to bring that back to life a little bit. Truck's a 19. I normally use the Meguiar's cleaner wax on it. It's never needed to get really buffed. I love keeping my stuff looking good. Like even my tractors, when they're 10 or 15 years old, they'll look good. I'll repaint them, whatever it takes. I really think it makes a difference when your equipment's on a job site. It looks good. It makes you look more professional. I'm that guy that believes in uniforms. I think you keep your equipment looking good. I even tell that to people. You can kind of tell what someone's about when you hire them. I'm not saying I started this business. Originally, I had a Boland's diesel tractor. Again, no, I brought it in, painted it, made it look good. I had a 79 F-350 two-wheel drive dump truck, but again, I restored it so it looked good. I found one. I was lucky enough to find one on a farm that had like 35,000 miles, and I ran that in this business for a long time. Then I got into some 90s trucks, but I think keeping your stuff looking good is just a sign of what your whole business is about. I don't believe everybody feels like my customers. Sometimes I don't think they care. Keeping your equipment looking good, I think, makes a big difference. If it had 100,000 miles on it, I'd probably fix that bumper and put some Bondo in it, make it look good. The fender there was no coming back from that. I could have probably siliconed that headlight and saved myself $600, but the truck's got 20,000 miles on it. It's a 2019, so I'm going to do it and do it right. But we'll get back on this. Yeah, it worked good on the door, but that fine cut doesn't seem to be touching it there. Hood's kind of scratched up. I do a lot of dirt roads. Stuff comes up off the plow, so I've got like fine scratches on the hood. I'm gonna try the 3M. This is I said this in other videos that I've done to finesse it. The original white bottles, this is old, that probably came out in the 80s. It was hard to get for a while. Now enough people wanted it, so 3M's got it. You can get it pretty easy now at most of your Napas and stuff. You're seeing me one arm this buffer. I wouldn't suggest anybody else. I've got quite a few hours on one of these, so I'm used to it, but that's a very dangerous game to play. This is probably one of the best. I'm a Ford guy all the way. You'll see that in my videos. I like my Fords, but this for a dump. I bought this for a dump truck just as a cabin chassis. I had this used body, but this black paint job when I bought it was probably one of the best paint jobs I've bought, even with new trucks and cars. This thing is like, for black, this is like glass. It's unbelievable. I always wondered that when Ford said they were going to aluminum rather. I just thought in my head that their paint would be like an orange peel, like thick, that would stick to the aluminum, but this stuff is like glass. And that's another reason I'm buffing this out, because when I paint the fender later today, I'm going to have to make sure I wet sand and buff that to where it's like glass, or it's going to really have a contrast. That finesse, it's actually working way better than the Maguire's. Yeah, it's gonna work. Bringing that right back to life pretty good. And then what I'll do probably once I get the fender on, I'll probably give the whole truck a waxing, and then I'll be good for the season. And then before winter, I normally bring them in, we'll oil undercoat them, and then I normally wash it because I guess you call it overspray from the oil undercoat, just gets all over the glass, horrible. So you got to give the truck a good cleaning a few days later, then I'll wax it and go from there. But like I said, we'll keep going on it. Now, once it's done, I'm going to do the whole step through painting it and everything. This will be all in the video. I cleaned it up. I'm going to let you know I used the Maguire's Fine Cut, which is number 2. And then I end up going over the whole thing with the Finesse It 2, which is a 3M product. And then what I found really polished it up nice was a show car glaze from Maguire's. I tried some 3M stuff I had. It didn't work as well. This really brought that stuff back. I'm just trying to explain to people, like this has got very thin clear coat on it, I can tell you right now. You got to be careful when you buff these things. A lot of guys will probably even tell me I shouldn't be using a wool pad. They're all into the foam and stuff like that. I did all this with a wool pad, and then I switched over to a 3M foam on the old style. That's all I had. I didn't have one of them new, so I wanted to use one of these. That's what I put the show car glaze on, and if you look, I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. It's got a pretty deep shine. Like I said, I'm just doing this so that when I paint the fender, it matches up good. But I think this side will show better if I show it from back here. It's got a nice thick shine to it again. I normally do this to the truck in the spring. I just didn't have time this year. We're just cleaning up now to get this fender. I'm going to back it out and paint that fender. I'm going to probably prep it tonight, paint it tomorrow. This shop's like, it's raining and it's like humid like you wouldn't believe, which I don't really want to paint in that. if anything, I might close the garage. I'm going to close the garage up. I had the door open the whole time I was doing this, and it's just like too moist in here to paint, especially where you got to do base coat, clear coat. So I'll close the garage up tonight and see what the weather's like tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure I'll be painting that fender tomorrow. But I just wanted to show people, like I said, I hope you can see that in the camera, but and I say this on anything you see me cleaning up vehicles or buffing cars out. A lot of guys will be like, oh, I can't believe you look a dinosaur, you're still using a wool pad. But this is a work truck. This was dirty. I'm like, I haven't done this since last fall, so it had all winter's damage done to it. This is like a black metallic too, so I mean, it scratches easy because it's clear coat over black. So when you scratch it, it's got like a white in it, you know, it almost looks white. I'm very impressed with the way this cleaned up. The other side too, I had some pretty deep scratches because I plow camp roads, and the white birches were bent over this year, and I got into a couple pretty hard on this door, and I ended up using the medium cut Maguires. I didn't really want to wet sand because I don't dare to because it's so thin. I had a gauge. I had to buy it. I worked for a Toyota dealership for a while, and you had to get Toyota certified to paint their cars, as far as warranty stuff and whatnot. And that we had some come in damaged that were on a chain dropped on them, and I had to paint. So we had to go get like certified to do the Toyota brand new cars, and they have a gauge that was a Toyota tool basically. It's made as a magnet, but in this case here, you just lay it on it and it will tell you the thickness of your clear, and there's very little clear on this truck. So I would never dare wet sand and buff it, I can tell you that. All it is like a little square block that you stick on, and it tells you the thickness between the paint. It's basically the clear coat thickness. So I used it, but like I said, the hood, I plow with this, so all the stuff that comes off the camp roads up over the plows, I have rocks and mud. This year was ridiculous too because nothing froze. So, but I got it buffed up. I'm going to bring it out, power wash it, and then prep the fender. And when I put the fender on, I got to change the fender headlight. I got a new bumper. We decided we're going to go with a new bumper, and I believe I'm going to put a chrome bumper on it. So I think it'll just look better. This was an XL package truck, but whoever ordered it, I didn't order it. It came in with some chrome stuff on it, very little, and I don't mind that. I like the Fords. I think they look good with the chrome grille, chrome bumper. Other than that, I really don't care. It had the outside temperature stuff on the mirrors, and it came with the options I wanted pretty much. So that's why I picked it up when I did. Someone ordered it and didn't pick it up, so I did as a cabin chassis. But this, I just figured I'd take a picture at this part. We're going to pull it out, wash it off, and next part of the video will be me working on prepping the fender. I'm going to sand and prep the fender for paint today, paint it, clear coat it, probably let it sit a day, probably going to bolt this on, wet sand and buff it, but I wanted the rest of the truck pretty much, you know, ready. I didn't want to have to do the whole truck once this was put together. I talked to one of my buddies that's still in the automotive, does a lot of paint work, so he said try not to disturb. There's a little bit of aluminum, the primer, the way they had it packaged, they probably put it in there when it was still wet because they're producing them so quick. But I'm going to try to it's really pretty good. It's other than this, it's not bad. There's a couple little, it's a little orange peel just in this one section, the rest of it's pretty smooth. Thing I don't like is for whatever reason it had a lot of wax pencil writing on it, so I washed it off with a prep cleaner. Now I'm going to sand it, blow it off, wipe it up again, tack it, and if this gets bigger, I may actually zinc prime it, which I'm going to have to go get this morning once Snapper opens. So, but I figured I'd just take another quick shot of where we're at on it. Once this is painted, I may try to buff this, I don't know. It's like, I hung it on this, there's some screws in the back. I think it's gonna be easy to wet sand and buff on the truck. I cleaned the cab up beforehand, thinking that I could do this, but it's kinda, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get it solid enough to buff on it, so I might just bolt it on the truck. I'll clean the truck up a little bit, it doesn't matter, but I cleaned the truck up beforehand, just so in my head I was thinking I would actually buff this off the truck, but I think it's going to end up being on the truck. But I just figured I'd take a shot where we're at this point. I'm going to prep this, get it in primer, and then we'll go from there. And I got the paint. It's a base coat, clear coat. It's a black metallic. I'm hoping it's going to match. I really don't want to have to blend it, so I'm hoping the paint I got matches. But we'll get to it. Like I said, the whole fender's pretty smooth, other than right here is a little bit orange feel, for whatever reason. I really don't want to sand through anywhere. Again, I'm a YouTube guy, so I watch YouTube videos. I asked one of my buddies that still does some paint work, and he basically said try to keep as much of that Ford primer on there as you can. I actually thought, overall it's fine, pretty good. I'm kind of aggravated with this, but I was hoping I could just stuff and shoot it, but years ago when I painted, there was stuff aluminum, made out of aluminum then, and they used to tell you not to put a lot of material on it, so as far as worrying about priming it. Back then, one of the tricks we used to do, same thing with getting paint to stick to a rubber bumper. How I was taught, like I said, that was many years ago now, but you were taught to use white or clear vinegar to wipe the aluminum. I know over the years I used to paint a lot of box trucks back, I should say a lot, but I painted a few. And aluminum bodies on those, same thing, you'd strip the stickers off and normally have to do a little bit of prep work. Anything that was bare aluminum, they'd tell you to wipe off with vinegar. It does some reaction. I never had an issue with it peeling. I haven't really heard much about Ford stuff peeling either, but that was my worry when Ford said they were going aluminum. I've always thought something that would be neat for the automotive companies to offer is, I think it would be neat if they offered you where you could order a painted fender. Probably stand a better chance of it matching. I know my brother-in-law bought a fender for his Jeep from a company that his Jeep, I want to say it's like 16, 17 years old, painted red. He ordered a fender from a company and they paint them for a little extra and send them to you. And perfect match. He was very impressed with how it came out. And I am going to have to hit that with a DA to get it where I want it. I did get into that aluminum enough. What I've decided to do is I got some black sealer. I'm just going to give it a thin coat of sealer to get the aluminum covered. I believe we'll be alright. I ain't too worried about it. Just want to show, I put a thin coat of sealer over the whole thing. It seemed the feather edge of where I sanded seemed to cover real good. So I figured I'd take a quick shot of that. Let that dry. I got some running around to do this morning, probably going to dry an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I'm going to paint it. We'll get back to the video then. I'm just showing, I got the coat of paint on it. I'm going to let that flash for like 45 minutes to an hour, and then I'll clear coat it. But seems like it laid down pretty good. It does seem like it takes the paint different. It's like when you paint a Corvette that's fiberglass, the paint pulls to the material different. You can tell that's not steel. It's kind of weird. First, it's the same tech base I've always used from Napa, but it's just the way it goes on and lays out. It's just different because it's aluminum. So, but other than that, I think it will be pretty good. Like I said, we'll let that flash and we're gonna clear coat it, so it'll be a bit. It laid out good. I was a little nervous at first. It just didn't seem like it was flowing out, but I think, like I said, you run into it when you paint a Corvette, older Corvettes that were fiberglass, the paint wouldn't lay out the same. And everywhere, oh, you prime over, it doesn't matter. The different materials take, but it's been a long time since I painted anything that was aluminum, but it really does. You almost have like a static effect when you're painting something, and it just took it kind of weird, but it laid out, so I'm happy with it. But probably give it another half hour or so and I'll clear coat it. All right, we're on a second coat of clear. I'm gonna put, normally 2 coats is what most shops put on. I'm going 3 because, believe it or not, the black paint on my dump truck looks better than all my other trucks. That was one of the better one of the better paint jobs I got from Ford. I'll tell you, it's like glass, so I got to make sure I got enough on there to wet sand and buff that fender so it matches the rest of the truck. For whatever reason, like I bought my wife F-350 less than a year ago, and that red on hers looks good, but it's not. This truck, for whatever reason, even though it's a cabin chassis, the paint jobs look like show quality, which it should. It's a new truck, but you know, people that, you know, normally you get a cabin chassis, there's always like a little orange peel. It just, I know it's probably the same quality, but like I said, sometimes you get, I know a couple guys that bought new Dodge trucks, and like the panel, one panel would be orange peel, one would be smooth. But for whatever reason, that truck looked real good. So I got to make sure this thing comes out just about mint. Looking good so far, but like I said, I think I am going to put one more coat. You know, let that flash a little longer. It's real warm here today too, so my garage is pretty toasty. Probably in the high 80s, so I used a mid-range hardener in the clear. I almost wish I would have used the real slow, but that's dangerous because when you bail it, it can run because it doesn't bind up. I like having it bind up a little bit. You'll know when you put your finger on it, like how I normally check it. A lot of guys won't like it, but that's inside where you're not going to see it, but you'll see it leave the fingerprint. That's almost ready to put another coat on. So that's 3 coats of clear. We'll let that dry. I'm going to let it sit in here probably for a day, binder it up pretty good. You know, I wanted to cure all the way. The longer it cures, the better it's going to sand. Ended up putting 3 coats of clear on it. What I'm going to do now is sand it with 1500. It's got to be pretty much perfect. The paint job on this truck is like almost mint. So I don't dare not pop it out pretty good. I'm doing videos of pretty much everything I do. I repair my own stuff for the most part. Some people don't like it that I do this type of stuff. They just want me to do the dirt work and landscape, but I said right in the beginning my YouTube channel would be whatever, pretty much what I do every day. And I shouldn't say, I don't know what the percentage is, but the automotive videos don't seem to do what the dirt work ones do, but like I said, I just want people, this is who I am, so I don't send too much out, do most of my repairs. I don't run stuff that needs motors and stuff, but when I first started out, I had the old Ford trucks and I'd get a little crazy, you know. There's a lot of mountain range basically around here, so you start loading the truck up and doing a bunch of trucking. The old gas shell motors used to not like it too much, so there was times I'd change a motor on a weekend to get back to work on a Monday, so. I think this is going to match pretty good as far as the texture and look. I pretty much got to make this fender look real good, or it's going to stand out compared to the rest of the truck. The other thing I'm thinking about doing is putting the F-450s have a flare on them on the front. I'm actually thinking about putting them on this truck. I think it would protect it from the chips. And Ford does a pretty good job though. I really can't even, I've run this truck 3 seasons. It's a dump truck. Once in a while you have stuff come over the top of it. If you got a chipper and you're putting chips in the rack, they blow over the top and go on the hood of the truck. Really not a lot of chips in the truck that show that, so. I think there's like 1 or 2 chips in the truck when I buffed it out, which ain't, for a truck that does what it does for 3 years old, it's pretty good. I'm just wet sanding this right now. I'm gonna buff it later. Almost. Yes, I don't know if you can see that shine or not, but I think it's going to match the truck pretty good. So as far as texture goes, it's pretty much got to be like glass on that, or it's going to look out of place. But next shot will be it going on, I guess. Finishing up the dump truck repair. We had to change the fender, put a new bumper on it. My son-in-law bolted it back together for me. I'm just fine-tuning some of the adjustments. He's trying to learn more about the auto body and stuff like that, so he helped me out by putting it together. He's trying to, like I said, he's trying to learn more with it anyways, but I fine-tuned everything, got the body lines looking real good this morning. I went over it with a, I used a cleaner, Meguiar's cleaner wax, because there was some compound here and there. And then I went over it with this. And I also used their orbital buff. I bought this kit, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 years ago. The newer vehicles with the thin clear coat, you kind of got to be careful with. But like I said, this variable speed, but you're not going to hurt nothing. But paint matched almost, I would say, mint. Even wet sanding and buffing it, I got it to the point where it kind of, this paint job for a dump truck looks good. So I had to really get crazy with this fender. There's really no orange peel in this thing at all. So I had to buff it, you know, wet sand and buff it. But I'm pretty happy considering it wasn't on the truck. I was hoping I didn't have to go back and like blend the door or something, but it looks good. I'm happy. Even if this wasn't my dump truck, if this was a personal vehicle, I'd be happy with it. So, all right, so again, this is some of the stuff I do. I'm a landscape company, but I do most of my own repairs. So if you like my content, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.